Director Stephen Cognetti found his niche in the horror cinematic scene with his Hell House LLC franchise, with a haunted house found footage feature which had the thrill of the independent filmmaking aesthetics to help with the storytelling, and created an entire lore which is going to be 5 movies strong by the end of the year of 2025. Cognetti would diversify his portfolio from a found footage haunted house feature into a more conventional haunted house feature with 825 Forest Road. We started with a prologue of a girl likely in college or high school, and she was reading the forbidden book about Ashland Falls, which delved into the history of one Helen Foster. This was a trope when you give recognition of something so sinister or ominous, and it would show up at your doorstep, and this was what happened, prompting us audience to buckle up and enter the world Cognetti had created. A young couple and a man's sister would move into this house in the quaint town of Ashland Falls, which we knew was the first red flag. The price of the house did not make any sense in this economy, which was another red flag. At this juncture, the tropes that Cognetti used, like entity manifesting when you were acknowledging its presence, and renting or buying a dubious house at a price too good to be true, were definitely not foreign to my part of the world. It was apparent that the relationship between the 3 residents were frosty despite being a family. The husband Chuck felt like a wedge between his wife and his sister, who had emotional baggage after their mother's tragic death from accident, which she blamed herself for, while Chuck had never established a close relationship with his sister as well. Cognetti broke the narratives into 4 chapters, with 1 chapter dedicated to each of the 3 main characters before culminating into the final chapter. The gradual hauntings of each character was meandering between the hit and miss, but Chuck's chapter was crucial to uncover the first few layers of the mystery of the house and the town in general. He had encountered strange characters in the library, scary visuals appearing on his video recording of the newly acquired house, to being traumatized by the scary mannequin her fashion designer wife possessed. Chuck was the closest to the audience conduit to the scary phenomena, which was subtle but effective. It was also Chuck who interacted with the people in town and get to know the legend of Helen Foster and what horrific fates the people that seemingly who wronged her had suffered, and how her intense grievance would haunt the town and the inhabitants of the house that Chuck bought. The movie slowly retrograded into a lull when covering his sister Isabel's side of the story, with the characters was a bit of a surplus to me, with her newly found friend being useful to give them the insight of the history behind the town. That said, there was one key scene with regards to an art exhibition that shocked Isabel out of her system before the real tormenting part that crossed over to her sister-in-law Maria's chapter. As mentioned before, Maria is a fashion designer and would do live stream of her new creations for her ardent fans online. Her choice of mannequin to showcase her creation made me shudder, much less when it could move by itself for no apparent reason. This built up the most skin-crawling scare of the entire movie when something awry happened live on the internet, which was a commentary of those TikTok horror memes and an ingenious way to insert a screen live segment, which, to be frank, was pretty shoddily done, but whatever happened at the rear of Maria was highly effective to shake me down to my core. Seeing the mannequin just slowly flexing its elbow triggered my fear receptors more than the ultimate scare in tight spaces. While the horror set piece itself was nothing too extraordinary, the tying up between the Isabel and Maria chapters was nicely done, which also brought the most visual manifestation of the ghost of Helen. The final chapter, which linked to the mysterious titular place of 825 Forest Road, was intriguing in terms of premise, but poor in the execution. I don't quite get the need to juxtapose between the siblings looking for the off-the-grid location and the bloodshed within their wretched house. The ending left a seed of curiosity in me on how Stephen Cognetti was going to spin this story in a probable sequel. He has his pulse on how to create an effective scare after setting the mood to wrap his audience within, although none was anything novel. I would always remember the creepy subtle movements of the terrifying mannequin in the livestream, that's for sure. There was a strong Blumhouse haunted house feature feel, and surely having a production kitty much less than what Blumhouse studio can cough up. The caliber of acting also felt like student film, but none of the notable characters had a horrible performance that turned me off. 825 Forest Road was no The Conjuring. It was an adequate haunted house feature with a world spun from the mind of director Stephen Cognetti as he built another intellectual property alongside the Hell House LLC franchise. It was interesting to note that most scares happens during daytime, another telltale from my side of the world that haunting can happen at any time of the day, need not to be after the sun has set. I will be game to catch the likely sequel, so a rating of 6 out of 10 sounds about right for this movie. Hope you guys will be interested in a sequel for 825 Forest Road and will stay tuned for a review on this channel. So please like this video and I'll appreciate if you can share it, and subscribe and get notified of new reviews on this platform. Late Talent Society, a smart commentary of Taiwanese folklores and urban legends from director John Su, which was sublime to tug on the audience heartstrings, was the preceding review, so check it out if you had not. So Maria, did the mannequin store ran out of the Kim Cattrall 1980s model that you are resorted to go for that godforsaken version